so much for attending our University Assessment Committee meeting. You are pivotal for the university's assessment requirements and also for meeting the requirements of SACS. So I really appreciate it. I'm introducing Laura Creel to you. She is a member of the accreditation team. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Laura. I am the Assistant Director of Accreditation. I have been at FIU first as a student and then as an employee for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that, something close to that. And I've been at the Office of Accreditation now for about a year. And some of you I know, some of you I don't, but I look forward to working with you throughout the coming years. Do you want to do other introductions, Kathy, or you want ready for me to do updates?
No, I'll let you do the updates. Susie, can you go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay, so on behalf of our whole office, I would like to thank all of you. You've been critical in helping us make a heavy lift of completing our assessment reports in time to submit them to the SAC. A special thanks to those units who worked very diligently to report that 2019-2020 data so that it could be submitted as part of our sample. Our SAC COC compliance certification report in early September, and that was actually a few days before the deadline, but that's only partway through the process. So just to walk you through that timeline, the compliance certification report is currently under review by the off-site reaffirmation committee, and we expect to receive their feedback, their assessment of our report, any findings by November. At that time, we will be given the opportunity to respond to their feedback or any requests for additional documentation, and we'll be submitting that as part of a focus report by February 1st. That focus report will be reviewed by the on-site reaffirmation committee in preparation for their visit to our campus, and we're still not sure how that's going to happen. It will probably be something like a hybrid where some of the committee members will come on campus and others will conduct meetings and interviews through Zoom. We're still waiting for more guidance on that, but the visit will happen in some form March through 18th in 2021. Between November and February, we will get a list of the personnel that the committee would like to interview and meet with during the on-site visit, and they'll be able to ask for any additional documentation. December 2021 is when we expect to receive a final determination from the SAC COC. So since we are not yet at the end of our timeline, we're asking, as I know that Jenna and Dr. Himberg have asked before, that you continue to prioritize completion of these assessment reports. Even though our sample has been completed and submitted, the committee, the off-site or the on-site committee can ask to review any additional assessment reports from any unit at any time. So we really need to make sure that there are no gaps in the event that they require more documentation. So once all the 1920 results have been submitted, and I know Kathy's going to go through that a little bit, but that deadline is October 15th. You will receive, your unit will receive an audit report identifying any gaps in data or use of results. Units that have outstanding reports will receive a memo of vulnerabilities by October 19th. And if you have outstanding reports that aren't submitted by that October 15th deadline, you'll be asked to respond to the memo and to submit an action plan for getting those reports completed. So again, thank you for your hard work. This is actually, you know, just a really critical part of our accreditation process, and, you know, assessment is a hot button issue right now with the SAC-COC. So thank you again. I'm here for any questions, and I'll be on the call later if you want to put, or I'll stay on the call if you want to put a message into the chat box. And again, we're always available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Laura. So essentially, just to reiterate, Laura and Jenna are the assessment, the accreditation people who are helping the assessment team bring across to SACS how much of a wonderful job you are all doing in terms of assessing your units. And so the emphasis that we're placing this year on timeliness is going to be more than ever, because as Laura mentioned, the deadlines are going to be pretty stringent. We're going to work on the improvement actions by December. So this October 15th deadline will give us enough time to review every single one of the 1,200 reports that we have to review for the entire university, and to be able to send back that feedback to all the administrative areas, all the academic areas that we work with, and then be able to work on these reports until finalized. We plan on doing this whole review process by December. So our goal is December, since at around Thanksgiving time, we're going to know if we're going to be hit on any part. And if assessment is hit, then that means that we have to submit all of our data again, submit any evidence to support any complaints that they might have had about our assessment process, or any questions that they might have about our assessment process. So that way we're able to have the best reports to submit to them possible. And we want to make sure we're not trying to rush last minute and generate something that we will be using as evidence for our compliance to SACS. So any questions on the October 15th deadline? October 15th, both the results and the use of results for 1920 are due. And if any plans change, so if you change any any outcomes or any methodology for assessing those outcomes, do submit those plans so that we can have them in the system and ready for you for the next academic cycle, the next assessment cycle next. Okay, so Laura briefly touched upon the quantitative audits that we have been sending. We have already sent 2 out to all the administrative units. We're going to send out administrative, sorry, units. We just had
academic.
Didn't we send it to the academic administrative? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be sending out the assessment audits to the administrative units. Susie has been working with you all to be able to show you, give you notifications of the deadlines that are coming up. So Susie, you want to talk a bit about that process and the types of notifications and how you're planning on working with the admin units?
Yeah, I'll talk about it in my section, or you want me to talk about it now?
Now, please. Yes.
Okay. So we have our quantitative audit dashboard. It includes everybody on the administrative side. So when you all the admin units, I'm pretty sure we all got everybody caught up to 1819. So all that's pending right now for admin units to submit is the 1920 results and use of results. And no follow-ups are due this year because you had already submitted it previously. If you haven't submitted it, then yes, it's due this year. But I'm pretty sure that we got everybody this last round that we did for SACS. We're gonna send out, I'll show you how to check the quantitative audit, or Danilo will show you in his section how to check the quantitative audit. But what we wanna do there is, we used to send the Excel spreadsheet with the yeses and the nos, and we're gonna send out a report of all of the administrative units via the listserv to the report writers. Or we'll figure out the logistics exactly how we're gonna send out that report to you guys. But even so, that information is, we're transparent about it and it's available to you, even if it doesn't come directly from our email. But I will be working with you guys to get all of your 1920 data submitted and into TrackDat. So that's the October 15th deadline where you're submitting results and then improvement plans based off of those 1920 results, what you'll be submitting into TrackDat. Along with that, like Kathy was saying and Laura was saying, on October 19th, around there, we'll be sending out, anybody who hasn't submitted data by October 15th, we'll be sending out the, what is past due, and then the memo of vulnerability, which will be required to be completed at the unit level with a VP sign off. So it's important that you submit it by October 15th, so that way we can start the review process and get the feedback to you, so we can be complete by December in the event that SACS wants all the reports again. Anything else you want me to add to that, Kathy? You're muted.
No, that's pretty much sums it up. For the qualitative version, Susie is responsible for completing all the reviews, and she is responsible for contacting you about making revisions. So she'll be in touch, and she'll also cover in her section the qualitative audit and the way to be able to check that, so that you'll be able to see what status we're in when your reports have been finalized at 100%. Susie, next slide.
Sorry, I'm responding to chat message.
Sorry.
Go.
Okay, so there's some new projects that we're working on as a team to make things easier for accountability processes, and also to be able to get more data available to everyone. The ones that are most relevant to you all are going to be about tracking MAP scores. So every single one of the assessment reports that you have are being scored using the rubric called the MAP, the Metric of Assessment Performance. And that rubric is being used to report to SACS the improvements that we are doing across time in terms of the quality of the assessment reports that we collect. So we're going to develop a dashboard related to that, and so that everyone can go in and see their MAP scores in an easy to use interface. We're also going to have dashboards and information about on-time submissions. So you can track how the submissions have been over time and whether or not these submissions have been timely. So not only do we have the October 15th deadline, we also have, once we review an assessment report, we have usually a 2-week turnaround time to be able to get feedback, and then we reach out within that time to make sure that the assessment reports are going to be completed by that timeline. And this is a way that we're trying to make sure that we have completion of reports way before the deadline, so that we'll be able to have a form, excuse me, Susie?
Nothing, I just went back to the previous slide because you're talking about the qualitative, which is triggered by the 100%.
So just so that we'll have a complete report for SACS to review in case they need to see extra evidence. Next slide. Okay, so the Canvas Mastery Gradebook, we're mainly working with academic units on that. It's going to be piloted this fall. We're linking the learning outcomes that faculty are tracking to Canvas, and then using Canvas data and mapping it to student characteristics to be able to give faculty a more in-depth view of how students are performing and whether or not they're meeting their competencies as defined in their assessment reports. And that's it for our new projects. I'll transition over to Danilo. Danilo?
No, actually, that one is me. Hi, I'm Mylene. I am the Assistant Director for Assessment and Academic Improvement within the Office of IE. And before I start my section, I wanted to go to piggyback on what Kathy was saying about the Canvas Mastery Gradebook. We are piloting it with the academic units. But if you are a student-facing unit and you are doing workshops for students, or if you're doing anything where you can develop student learning outcomes, this is especially for the student affairs units. If you're doing anything where you can develop, where you can assess student learning outcomes and students are learning or gaining something from the services that you are provided, we can also discuss maybe assessing student learning outcomes through the use of Mastery Gradebook. And now I'm going to talk about our priorities for the review process. So for the administrative units, our report for SAC-COC was a little bit different. For administrative units, we did not give them a sample of our reports. We actually gave them the entire set of all of our administrative assessment reports. So all of you got reviewed, which is good. So what we're doing now is we are prioritizing those units that submit their 1920 results and use of results. So since you all of your reports were read up to 1819, we're looking at those in the quantitative audit, and Danilo will show you what the quantitative audit is, where it shows 0% or 100% if you actually entered the required fields. Once your 1920 is all at 100% for all of your outcomes, then we put it into our review process for us to actually read your reports, and we'll read your 1920 data only. So it should go by a little bit faster because all of you were reviewed already up to 1819. And then the review status, check the dashboards. First, we will not read your reports unless your quantitative audit, the quantitative audit dashboard shows that you are at 100% for every single one of your outcomes. If you're missing data in any one of your outcomes, we will not mark it as ready for review and ready for reading on our end, because we simply don't have enough manpower to go back and forth. My next slide. This is one for an academic program, but you've gotten the same thing from Susie, your redlined reports. Make sure that you look at each comment, that you understand what we're asking for in each of the comments, and more importantly, that you address every single comment when we that we're asking on the paper. So you have your red comments and your orange comments. The orange ones are things that we change on our end, but you feel free to ask or to comment on anything that you see pertinent on the orange comments. But on the red ones, please, before you submit it back to us, double check that you've addressed every single one of them, so that we can reduce the number of times of going back and forth with you on completing these reports. And then when we do this, Susie fills out the map, the metric of assessment performance, which is our rubric. That's the next slide, I believe, Susie.
Mm-hmm. Give me one second.
That is, it's going.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so the map is the rubric that you've seen at the end of the redline reports when we send it to you. And it's basically a rubric, and it's broken down into the 4 different areas, those 4 columns that your assessment reports have. And basically, we're tracking quality across time. We're tracking the quality of your outcomes, the quality of your improvement actions, to make sure that we are using best practices and to showcase to others. We actually use this as part of our SAC-COC report as well, where are areas areas of strengths are within our assessment practices, and also our areas for growth. And we use that to see where we maybe need to host more workshops, or where we need to work individually with any of the units. The areas that I want to focus on for the map, and I believe that's the next slide, that I see are the areas where we really need to work on as an institution are the ones that you're seeing on your screen. So the analysis is, we want you to write, after you report your results, we also want you to briefly talk about any trends that you're seeing, anything that you did differently that might have affected the data that you gathered for that year. So we really want you to start doing some analysis when you're reporting these results. We also want you to briefly again talk to us about, within your reports, how you're communicating with stakeholders. So how are you, depending on what constituents you serve, then we want to know how you're getting this across. How do the students know what this unit in STA exactly does, and how they assess themselves, and what improvement actions they're taking to better serve the students? Those are the kinds of things that we hope to see within your reports, because it'll make not only our institution stronger in terms of our assessment practices, but also our case stronger whenever we have to defend this to any accreditation body. Your improvement actions, I'm sure Susie has really drilled on the improvement actions being very concrete. It needs to be a plan moving forward on what you're going to do that is directly related to that particular outcome, not necessarily to your assessment plan as a whole. And again, you know, that's on a one-to-one case. It really depends what your outcome is and what your improvement action is or are. And we can definitely give you ideas on that, or tell you before you write it whether that's a good improvement action or not. But make sure that it's concrete and that it's directly aligned to the outcome. And then, of course, your follow-ups. If you do have a concrete improvement action that you can actually implement, it'll be a lot easier for you to then afterwards follow up on it and provide evidence for that. So these are the 5 areas that we really want to focus on moving forward on improving this, because we are seeing a lot of ones in these areas within the rubric. Any questions? No? Okay. And last, I wanted to talk about the assessment certificate. We've already ran the certificate 3 times. And with faculty, we have not done it yet with administrative units. We really want to do it with administrative units. But if you are, especially if you are in one of the units that works with students in a student learning capacity, you could benefit from being enrolled in this certificate in order to see how better to develop your student learning outcomes, your methods, how to better collect data, and develop improvement actions. So for right now, we're only taking people for the wait list. We're doing faculty, and then we're also for the administrative units. If you are in again in a student serving unit, we can put you down on the wait list. Faculty do have priority, but we could definitely take you into account. We're waiting to see, we're gauging the interest in the certificate, and to then ask for more funding, because this is a strategic initiative from the provost. And now Danilo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Danilo Lasante. I'm the Director of Assessment Analytics for the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. I also work closely with the Division of Academic and Student Affairs in providing data support. And so I hope that if you ever need any support with your data processes or any of your assessment analyses, that you'd feel free to reach out and use me as a resource. So I think rather than going through the slides, I'd like to demonstrate some of the dashboards that could potentially serve as resources for you throughout the assessment process. This is a new layer that's been introduced to our office over the past year or so. And so a lot of it has been informed based on your feedback and your needs. And so we'll go ahead and Susie, I guess, do I have control or?
I have to give you control. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing.
Sure thing. Great.
There you go. All yours.
Thank you. All right. So So typically when you go to access your assessment report, you navigate to trackdat.fiu.edu, and there's this menu of items that you can choose from, including your assessment report and submitting your new assessment plan. But for the analytics part, you're going to want to look at this area, the data dashboards. And so traditionally, you've probably navigated to the program course metrics to look at your program outcomes dashboard. So anything that pertains to institutional metrics such as retention, graduation, excess credit hours, time to degree, you will find there. We're actually working on updating that dashboard so that the filtering options are a little bit more straightforward, rather than filtering by academic plan or subplan. You could focus on the programs. But anyway, what's going to be of interest to the administrative units in particular are reviewing the competency, achievement, and strategics alignment, which includes also the goals and sub-competencies for each of your assessment reports. And so I'm going to refer to that as the CASA dashboard. And so assessment really is about improvement. And so we wanted to come up with some tools for you that not only helps you track your assessment progress in terms of submitting all your data and your reports and abiding by all the accreditation standards, but also a way that helps inform your objectives, your goals, any plans you have for your area. And so we developed this dashboard with the intention that of assessing what are your student learning and program outcomes, and how are they related to your program goals and achievement. And so on this dashboard, this one is currently showing the UCC. So for academic units, we're going to focus on the administrative areas. And so you'll see here that when you go to submit your assessment plan, typically you also, and you develop your outcomes, typically you have to assign a particular competency or strategic priority or goal to these outcomes, right? And so we haven't had the ability to aggregate that information and look at trends over time in the past. Now you're able to do so. And so this dashboard is going to show you across all of the administrative areas, the different competencies, priorities, and goals across each year. And so for instance, when you look at these goals, such as graduation, we can see every other year how many goals were specific to graduation, and how many or what percentage were actually met. And so that's notated or indicated by the gold here. The blue indicates the number of goals or percentage of goals that were not met. So we can filter down into between two areas. We can look at the academic and student support services, but we could also look at the administrative units. If we were to go to the, I'm sorry, was there a question?
No.
Okay, so if we were to filter to the academic and student support services, you'd see that we are now focused on that area within the administrative units. And so as we scroll down, we can see year by year, where has the emphasis been for each of these goals? And so, and how are they linked to the competency categories that are assigned to your outcomes? And so we could see, as we scroll down, for instance, whenever the competencies that have to do with student services and perhaps learner success, and within that, the goal of graduation, we see that since 2014, there's been a gradual increase in the number of goals that pertain to graduation, and also we can see the percentage of those goals that have been met. So I think this is useful not only to show the overall trend of where your area is heading, or where the focus is year by year, and as the institution's priorities change and your department's priorities change, this can be informative in helping you come up with new assessment plans and potentially outcomes to help make sure that you're aligned with your area and with all the other administrative units potentially. So that's going to be useful if for anytime you want to get together with your team, or you want to disseminate this with other personnel in your area, you can definitely redirect them to this dashboard. If you have AD credentials, you can, believe everyone should have access to it. Otherwise, you can even download it as a PDF, save it, and then share with the rest of your team. And so just to quickly demonstrate what that looks like, my screen is a little small here, but you know, and when you're able to generate it, you'll be able to see the different areas that the administrative units focus on as it pertains to their priorities and goals. Moving forward, I also want to share the view of improvement strategy trend analysis dashboard. This is a Vista dashboard. So this is more focused on our improvement categories. So every time you have to submit results for your outcomes, and then you also usually have to submit a use of results as well, which is essentially your improvement plan. But each of these improvement plans are assigned a particular improvement category. And so this shows you a breakdown year by year, and also includes a proportion of how many categories, or the percentage of categories that were attributed to your use of results each year. So for instance, we have the administrative area filter selected. Within that, you can also select a specific unit or any of the administrative units within here, including centers and dean's offices. And so, so this is good to get some, to conduct some descriptive analysis, see where the trends have been year over year in terms of improvement. We see that, for instance, budgetary improvement plans have been pretty stable since 2014. There has been maybe some fluctuation depending on the unit or the sub areas. So like student affairs, for instance, might have different, you might see different patterns compared to everyone else or every other administrative unit. You do have the ability to do some comparative analysis. So for instance, we have a similar visualization here, but instead you can select, if you wanted to select perhaps student affairs units, right? And this is an area that I work closely with. So if we were to select all of these, we'd be able to just look at the improvement categories for these areas, for student affairs units, and compare with all the other administrative areas. If we wanted to just compare it with specific areas, we can do that as well here, just to see how closely it aligns with the overall university. And also, again, just provide a different visualization. It seems like we filtered for student affairs, so there tends to be more improvement categories that are focused on modifying services from year to year, the overall priorities of the administrative units. And then we also have a little bit of a heat map here, which shows you like where the emphasis is across all years in terms of improvement categories. So in this case, we see modify services tends to be the most often cited improvement category for student affairs areas. So this filter, this visualization is dictated by the filters you select on this for this one. And so that also gives you an idea of what improvement areas are emphasized by the unit, and can potentially also inform you in the sense of, you know, well, what other areas do we need to really tend to, or what potential improvements can we make? And that can sometimes also shape your outcomes as well. If there's an area that you feel that your unit can potentially grow in. And of course, that can also be informed by what you see other administrative units doing. And so that's it for the Vista dashboard. Now moving on to the quantitative audit. So once again, if you navigate to trackdat.fiu.edu, you will notice that there is a tile for report status. So you would navigate to here because this is where you're going to see your audit dashboard, right? And then by clicking on this link here, it'll generate our audit dashboard. Some of you may have seen this already, maybe have worked with this in the past. For some of you, it might seem very new. But essentially, this just is indicating what data has been submitted from your respective unit. And so when you click on it, you'll notice it's pre-filtered for the reporting year, 2019. We mentioned earlier that we have everything, all the administrative units at least, up to date through 2018. And so we are now interested in collecting data for 2019. And so you'll see every administrative unit represented here. If we go and we filter by administrative unit, this also includes the active outcomes. And so if you want to look at archived outcomes, you can also filter for those. But you'll notice here at the top, in just a moment, it will, these figures are dynamic. So depending on what you filter, these figures at the top will change depending on the number of reports, the percentage of results that have been submitted, and the percentage of use of results that have been submitted up to now. We have been sending out some communication that the results and use of results should be submitted by October 15th. And so you'll be able to use the tooltips even to get more detail about what needs to be submitted. So for instance, you hover over anything with a 0 and it will tell you, okay, results need to be submitted by October 15, 2020, use of results by October 15, 2020, follow-up will be submitted sometime in the following year. And then also the criterion status. So these are the key elements that we're going to need to complete your assessment report for 2019-2020. And as Eileen referred to earlier, we cannot review your report until we see that this is populated with 100%, meaning that you've submitted all these different components, at least up to the October 15th, 2020 deadline. Once it's submitted, you'll see a little 100%, which indicates that this is complete. This has been sent in. And so you could even hover over this to get the tooltip to see what data has been entered, what use of results have been entered. Also, if there's anything else missing, in this case, this outcome has evidence. And so it will say whether or not evidence was uploaded. And then if there's anything missing, in this case, follow-ups, it'll also provide a statement indicating when follow-up needs to be submitted by. And so we definitely encourage you to use this to keep track of your assessment progress. And also if there's any issues that you note, or maybe any other ways that this can be of greater use to you, or help you be more efficient, then we are happy to try to use those ideas and as feedback to make the dashboard more suited to your needs. As I mentioned, if you wanted to drill down to just look at administrative units and even filter to more specific areas, and you can also, well, in this case, it's not relevant for administrative units, but you can search by modalities and departments. You can also check to see whether data was submitted or not submitted. So if you only want to see the outcomes that have a 0%, in other words, that haven't been submitted, you can just filter out those as well. If you want to generate a PDF because you want to disseminate it with others in your department or in your area, you can also download a PDF by selecting the download button on the lower right-hand corner of the screen, selecting PDF, and then in specific sheets from this dashboard, you want to select Track That Audit and download. And I know it's a handful of steps, but we're going to publish a guide to inform you how to do this each time. And we can also provide support as well if you want us to walk you through it. But once you generate the PDF, it's going to provide all the information that you filtered, but it's also going to include some additional details as well. So it'll tell you when the dashboard was last updated. It's going to be refreshed every morning. So, previously, as Susie mentioned, we were sending out these Excel sheets that, maybe took time to produce and update. But this is actually refreshed on a daily basis. It's based on what you enter into TrackDat. So if the data is missing from TrackDat, it's not going to appear in here. So all this data is fed from that source. So it'll provide, just a quick summary, when it was last updated, how many reports are made up, and what is the total completion across all the areas that were filtered for. Additionally, there'll be some notes at the bottom that provide, just parentheticals and what the symbols mean, if relevant, the specific due dates that are coming up, and as well as, once your report has, once you've submitted all your data, where you can go to review the status of your report, which Susie's going to discuss, the qualitative dashboard, which, is the second phase of this process. So consider this is just the first phase. This is like your receipt, that you've submitted your stuff, you have it in there, and then help you kind of track, because I know it can be a lot, and going into TrackDat and trying to find where data needs to be entered. So hopefully, this simplifies it a bit. But that's it for the quantitative audit. Again, if you have any feedback or any suggestions, feel free to reach out to myself or Susie or anyone else on our team. We're happy to go through a more, maybe if we conduct a training perhaps, that will help you leverage this resource. But otherwise, feel free to reach out and provide any feedback or ask questions as they come up. So I think I can actually return to Susie just so I can provide some updates on what's forthcoming. Great. Yeah, so again, so just to wrap up, some of our future directions. So we have the PO dashboard, which is primarily used by academic units in tracking institutional metrics. If you're one that, you oversee administrative and academic units, there's going to be some updates on that end. We are also going to be producing a dashboard that includes all the MAP scores. So you'll hopefully be able to see a trend in how your assessment improvements, have you progressed in assessment over time. We're also going to produce word cloud analysis. And this is a way for you to identify what themes emerge from all the outcomes that you are interested in assessing, not only with your own unit, but across all units, administrative and academic. And so that's going to be forthcoming. We're also going to include a number of resources and tools to help you develop objectives and outcomes and help make, the administrative aspect of assessment a little bit more seamless. And so that way you can focus more on the improvement and what you're actually getting out of assessment. And so we're providing some resources, including the chatbot. And so that's hopefully in the next, probably within the next couple semesters, we'll have some prototypes up and running. And we look forward to hearing your feedback again in how this is helping to meet your needs.
Okay, thank you very much, Danilo.
Thank you.
So one of the reasons why Danilo is working on all these data sources for all of you is because we want to take data to another level. We've always kind of done assessment in our own vacuums of our own units, and we rarely see beyond that. These data are going to now be a resource for us to be able to discuss with you. So not only can you compare yourselves within your units over time in terms of what areas you're focusing on, in terms of competencies, in terms of strategic areas of focus, or in terms of areas of improvement strategies, we can also show you a lot of information of how you're going to be able to compare to other units and how you can set milestones for yourselves that will be on a broader level, and this will allow you to have a lot more resources on hand. Now, Susie?
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the resources on our website on the TrackDat page. So since we've already been through this process, I'm going to go I'm going to go through it a little bit fast, but if you have a question, pop it in the chat or speak up and I'll be happy to answer your question. So our website, our TrackDat page, which takes you to the assessment portal, and the assessment hub, which is trackdat.fiu.edu. So this is how it looks. the dashboards that Danilo was showing you are over here in program course metrics, and then the audit dashboard is over here in report status. So this is how you navigate to those dashboards. If you are curious to take a look at the CASA and the Vista dashboards, they're over here, and the audit dashboard is in here, and this is where you'll see all of the completion statuses and review statuses of your report. We also have some help buttons down here on the bottom, our main IE website, assessment.fiu.edu, our contact us page, which I'll show you a little bit about that in the next couple slides. And then our YouTube channel that has TrackDat tutorials is over here. You can also go straight to YouTube, type FIU institutional effectiveness, and our channel pops up. And also our previous recordings of our previous assessment conference are also on there. And then deadlines and events. This will just show you a calendar of the upcoming deadlines, which, you know, is October 15th. I think we said that a lot already. And the events that we have upcoming, which we're in the process of planning the next assessment conference. So once we have that finalized, we will be uploading or updating that calendar there with those dates. So Danilo talked a lot about the quantitative audit dashboard. That's, did you submit your data, yes or no? And then now we have the qualitative dashboard, which shows you an overview of where your report is after you submit your data and during the review process. So let me take you to our website to show you that over here. So when you go to the website trackdat.fiu.edu, you will come up to a page. You'll come up here, like we said, report status. You'll get over here, step one, status of quantitative review. That's Danilo's dashboard that he was showing you. And then we have the status of the qualitative review. So over here, you'll have every report that we have active in the university that we review. Administrative units are over here. And you can see that it just collapses down into a pretty user-friendly way to visualize your reports. We have the reviewer tab. This is the unit report writer, is who is responsible for writing the report at the unit level. And you know, there are some changes here. And if you see a change that needs to be made, just go ahead and reach out to me and I can make that change here for you really fast. The reviewer, so that's who's assigned as the reviewer of your report status. Right now these are blank because they're not ready for review yet. Let me show you an example here so you could see some of the statuses, how they look. So you can see ready for review. That means data is entered. It's in line to be reviewed because we're reading these reports and providing feedback the way that we went through a couple of months ago and last year during while we were reviewing the previous data, 15-16 to 18-19. So you see ready for review. When it's under review, it will be in this yellow status. That means the reviewer is currently reading your report and going through it. And then after that redlining process is complete, we go to feedback sent. So that means that we actually have sent you the email that contains your redline report and the map rubric and the front matter of the report, which is the form that you fill out. That's you'll make the change, where you want to make the changes and say, okay, we don't have any more things that we need to do. And then that's where we will assign you a due date. So like Kathy was saying, the turnaround time for that our expectation for that is around 2 weeks. If you need more time or something comes up, you can always email me and we can work with you on that. But the standard is 2 weeks turnaround time. So we'll send you the report and then you have 2 weeks to return it back and address those points that Aileen was showing on the page with the red line review. So all the red comments. So you have to go into TrackDat and address those comments and then send us back those first 2 pages of that were attached to the report. And then once you send it back to us, we'll put it into this pink status. We check it again, we go through and we make sure that each point was addressed, in the comments, and then we'll go and compare what we had sent you to what's currently in TrackDat. And then if there's no more changes that need to be made, we will finalize the report and it'll go into report finalized status. So that's a little bit overview of what the status is. This dashboard will also house the actual red line report that we have just sent to you. So that way, it's always available for you if you want to find it here. So this is our way of showing you our process and how we're being transparent and how we are making more resources available to you through this process. So you're not just like, I submitted my data, what happens now? Like I said, we're working through reviewing these reports, and we're going to try to get through all of them by December. Next, back over here. We also have a new contact form. Some of you have already used this. This is how we have made it so that you can schedule a meeting with us quicker and easier. So if to get to this form, you'll go back here to TrackDat. So if I go back to TrackDat, you'll be able to see here, contact us, schedule a meeting. If you need to schedule a meeting with me, it's also in the bottom of my email signature. You can find it really quick right there. Click here to schedule a meeting. It'll take you to a page, and it's pretty self-explanatory. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your email? Do you need anyone else to attend this meeting? That's how we know to add them to the Zoom invite. And then you pick here your reviewer, who is your reviewer. And then over here will pop up with a time, and this will show my calendar availability, which I'll fill out my calendar availability so that more dates are available. If you click on name record, then you can suggest a time, and if I'm available, I'll send you a Zoom invite. If not, I'll email you and let you know that, so we can work out a time. But this is just a quick way that we have pre-scheduled meeting slots on our calendars so that you'll be able to quickly schedule a meeting with us. And over here, you can tell us a little bit more about what you need help with. So that way we can prepare that for the meeting. And I gave you the demo of that. And now I'm going to turn it back over to, well, we're your resource. Like we have always said, we are here to help you. We're not here to, even though, we're very, we have deadlines, we're here for you, and we're here to help you make your assessment process better. And we're here to help you really look at your data and make improvements to your area so that your services can improve and the way that we're reaching students can improve. And not just students, faculty, administrators, our entire organizational function can improve. So I'll turn it back over to Kathy if she wants to wrap up. We're right on time.
Do we have any questions before we wrap this up? Okay. I take that as a no, unless somebody pops up within the last seconds. Anyway, thank you very, very much for everything. Without your support, we wouldn't be successful for SACS. Thank you for revving up efforts and completing all past data as well. And hopefully we'll find something out in terms of how we're doing it for SACS by December. Usually it's around Thanksgiving when they tell us. We will let you know. And then if we need any additional information or documentation, we will be notifying the units affected. Thank you very much for everything, and have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, thanks, all.